Welcome everyone to the First 30 Podcast. Today we're playing the new third-person action horror by Jukai Studios, Stray Souls. Was Grandma's free house worth learning the creepy family secret? And can we forgive many of the game's awkward moments by treating it like a quirky B-movie? Well, let's find out. Thank you for listening to the First 30. I'm your host, Chad Callahan, and alongside me are the family secrets that should have been left in the attic. Tim Harris.
Hello.
David Marino.
I don't have to worry about that right now.
And Rick Weird Beard Hogerhide.
Being a black sheep of the family makes it so you're the open secret of the family.
That's true. And you get your own room when you're in the attic. I mean, you don't have to share with brothers and sisters and stuff like that. But speaking of creepy things that you should keep in the attic, I want to bring up something because by the time this episode comes out, the movie Five Nights at Freddy's will be out in theaters. Yes. And I know I'm not a huge fan of the game itself. Like, I mean, I played it. It's fine. It's you know, not necessarily my cup of tea, but I respect what it's there. But I'm actually really kind of interested in the movie. I don't know why. Like, I've been seeing the trailers for it. I don't know. But I want to ask you, does this game deserve a film adaptation? And are there games that should take its place instead? Like, I think of Silent Hill and Resident Evil and all those other like attempts at some gameplay or good game movies, the horror at least. But I don't know. Does this one feel like it might hit the mark? Rick, what do you think? You look like you're about to say something.
Well, I mean, I have a 12-year-old daughter. Like, this is the thing. Like, Minecraft and
the movie would be great. You're right.
Five Nights at Freddy is like a thing amongst younger kids. Like, they're not. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Like, they get this weird attachment to it. And so I think you're looking at it through the critical, like, is this supposed to be scary? And it's much more of just like old white dudes in a boardroom being like, what do the kids love? FNAF! Hit the button!
Exactly. Make movie. Well, to be fair, though, that movie is PG-13. So it's like that already ousts it from that technical demo.
That does not oust it from that demo. Your parents are going to take you to see this movie.
No. Chad, do you think that they're literally age IDing kids going into a PG-13
No, but
movie?
at the same time, I don't think parents are just allowing kids just to go into horror movies.
They're dressing up.
My parents didn't.
3 kids in a trench coat to get into the FNAF movie.
My parents also would not have like taken us to see horror movies, but I know for a fact that like kids will go see this movie.
I'm not saying they won't. I'm just saying like it just feels weird that it's a PG-13 movie, but it's like the target demo is like, yeah, like you were saying, like maybe 12 and under.
All of the basically all of the discourse that I've seen around Five Nights at Freddy's is everyone thinks it should be rated R. Like they're saying it should have been an R-rated horror movie.
Yeah, it looks
I was going to say there's
disturbing.
some Saw trap kind of level stuff that I'm seeing in this, and I was just like, okay. But I guess that's stuff that's in the game. I do feel like there's parts where like the Saw things try to attack you or something.
The lore of the game is actually like pretty dark, and like the speculation about it is even darker. So like there's definitely some like real gritty things you could throw in there if you want to. So if they want to go R, they could, but you know.
What it honestly to me feels more like is, do you remember how Slender Man was the obsession for a weird period of time with like younger kids? They were like,
well, it also led to someone killing someone too.
Yes, but I'm much more saying that I don't know if they're, again, I don't think they're concerned about being spooky or scary or anything like that. They go, oh, animatronics that we could definitely sell a buttload of merch for. Like, make whatever you got to do.
Yeah,
cut the check.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's kind of the flip side though, is like, I don't know if anyone's seen the new trailer for Iron Lung, the Markiplier's new movie coming out based on that indie game. I don't know what that trailer, how that correlates with, you know, being stuck in some submersible underwater does, but it looks great. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, it looks intense.
He's being real arty-farty with the 2 trailers that have come out, and he really needs to just knuckle down and like give us one that kind of shows what the movie is going to be like.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm excited for it, and I'm really rooting for him because like I'm loving these like YouTuber turned filmmaker stuff. Like, oh shoot, what's that new A24 movie that just came out with the hand? I'm blanking on it because that was made by YouTubers.
Talk to me.
Talk to me. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The Australian duo.
That was really good. Yeah, they're two YouTube guys who just were like, let's make a movie, and A24 is like, okay.
The bigger question is, Chad, can you name any of the FNAF animatronics at all?
Chica, I want to say, is one of the bird. Foxy is the fox guy, and I don't know anyone else. I can't think of him off.
Freddie
Fazbear.
Fazbear.
Well, I thought Freddie was like kind of the obvious because it's named after the game, so I was trying to avoid that one. All right, but anyways, here we're done talking about that because clearly we all have personal opinions on Freddie. But today we're playing a third-person action horror game where a horrible family secret is learned. This is Stray Souls.
When my grandmother died, she left me her house. My own place. No rent, no mortgage. I thought I'd won the lottery. But all that changed after I met Martha. There's no way this is real. What the hell? Martha says I'm not safe. That I should be prepared to defend myself in case those cultist nutbags come looking for me. I didn't win any lottery. I inherited a nightmare I can't wake up from. Every family's got secrets, but not like mine.
Daniel, no!
Also, I want to give you a quick reminder that if you are listening to this podcast, well, this is also on YouTube, so you can watch this podcast. All you got to do is go to youtube.com/@first30podcast to listen. But let's just get right into this game. I have a lot, and I mean a lot to talk about in this game. And some of it's good. Most of it's not. I'm just gonna kick us off right there. I can't even think of what this game's trying to go off of. I think they're trying to do a little bit of the Resident Evil 4 style, like third-person horror shooter. David, am I on the right track of what you think they're trying to do? Because I don't know. It just doesn't. It doesn't feel the same.
You're definitely close, especially with the remakes. It's not like the fixed camera. Or even like the really hardcore, almost like B-movie action that the original Resident Evil 4 was. But it's slow. I was gonna say you're strapped on resources, but you're not really. You're not strapped on resources.
Not at all.
There's no inventory.
Have one weapon. You have one weapon, like that's the one tool you have, but they just give you so many bullets. I mean, there was one. You're walking down the corridor, which is what this game is. It's
just
corridor,
back rooms.
Running through a forest. Once we get out of the house intro.
Well, here let's set the context for that. We played an hour and a half of the game, and we saw two locations. One was the inside of the grandma's house that was left to you, and then the majority of the playtime was actually running through this expansive forest that was pretty much empty, except for like a handful of enemies here and there.
Yeah.
Even then, the enemies, it felt like there were supposed to be arenas, like you'd get to an open area clearing or even just a larger area of the forest corridor, and like the enemies would be there, and there was nothing in between. There was absolutely nothing in between those encounters. It was just walking from place to place.
And every encounter was exactly the same too. There was 3 big dudes and 2 dog guys. That was it.
I mean, and real quick, I do want to say, like, the graphics, at least for when we were outside, the foliage looked really nice, and there was mist, and it was actually kind of creepy. But the house, when we start in that house, looked like trash. Like, there was, like, weird graphical issues on the ground, and especially on, like, there's parts that look like broken glass on the floor. Like, what was that? What was that supposed to be? Was it actually glass? Like, why is someone just living like that in this house? I don't know.
Yeah, I think I think the issue is like outside does look really nice, and the house looks nice. Like the texture quality, kind of the modeling, the level of detail is all really well done. There's just really strange choices, like you said, the broken glass on the floor. How the attic is the nicest part of the house.
Yes.
There was the infamous poo toilet where there's just a massive cake of shit sitting there.
I thought it was a graphical issue when we first walked in. Okay, to set the tone, you walk in, the first thing you see is this bathroom, and you walk in, and it's literally just this big brown lump at the bottom, and you're like, that can't be real, right? Like, that's a weird graphical glitch, right?
It looked like Mount Pooh from Conker's Bad Fur Day. Just this massive, absolutely huge pile that's chilling in there.
And then we checked the second toilet that's upstairs. Not a poo to be seen.
Clean.
So they know how to handle toilets.
Yeah,
so that wasn't like a graphical error at all. So there definitely was a poop there.
Because the thing is, it feels the house more than anything feels like an asset flip. It feels like somebody got their hands on a pack, or maybe just went diving through like a kit bashing site and just threw it together, because like nothing inside of the house makes sense that it should be that way.
Yeah, especially the paintings, which there are multiples of in the same hallway constantly. Like you move from one room to another, there's like 2 pictures of the Roman Colosseum that are between one hallway. So you walk in a door and it's right there, and then you turn the corner outside the door and it's right there again. It's like, why?
Yeah.
You spent the majority, so that first section in the house was it was exposition and puzzle solving. And it would have us do, like, there was a puzzle where you had to flip blocks in a kid's room.
Oh, yeah.
And there was another one where you had to play the piano notes attached to like
the colors
that you found around the house
on a painting for some reason.
And like, I don't know. I'm not somebody who's like, oh, you have to make this very complicated and hard to be able to figure out. But they felt like, I don't know, kind of remedial. I'm not gonna say
it's fair.
Easy.
It's like the piano puzzle was okay. Like, okay, go search the house for these clues and open the door or whatever. I don't think it was either Tim or Chad. I don't remember who brought this up, but the block puzzle doesn't make any sense.
Oh, it does not. Yeah, that was
because it's like he's just playing with these blocks. He's like, oh, haha, I spelt a message, but no, the game treated it like it was from the grandma, because she's like standing behind you as soon as you finish.
Yeah.
Like, I moved those blocks. This isn't some
It's
ghostly
weird
activity.
too, because like during that puzzle, the puzzle it's like, you know, so many letters are set up in a way, and you just rotate the blocks, right? Like however you want it to go. The problem comes down to is like, suppose for some reason the main character just knew that certain blocks didn't need to be switched. So like the first block and the third block are fine, but the middle block to make that word has to be switched. Like why? Like I don't understand. And we guessed it literally like within like 2 words. We figured out what the entire thing was.
Yeah, you're like going through. It's like, okay, this. Okay, it says this, and then like I think we thought the bottom one was his name, but it didn't fit.
Yeah, it
so
was
like,
grandson.
Oh, grandson. Yeah.
Yeah, it was stupid obvious, and then Tim made a good point. Like that would have been much more scary if it did it itself, and it said, you know, the block said that on its own, and we were like, oh, and then she showed up. Much more terrifying than me going, there we go. Now it says something about being a grandson. Oh no, now grandma's here and she's dead. Ooh, spooky.
It's like the guy makes his own sandwich, and he's just like, who made this sandwich in front of me?
He screams. Oh, and the worst part is like every single scare is like 3 seconds off.
Oh, God,
if not longer.
That was driving me absolutely insane, because you will hear the hit for the jump scare, and then the character will react before the hit, and then the jump scare happens like 6 seconds after the hit for the jump scare.
It doesn't make sense, because instead of it rendering, it's like it's rendering 3 different things separately, and like something is not keeping up, and so it's trying to just do all the stuff at once, and none of it's lining up. It's really weird.
Okay, can we address the elephant in the room?
How terrible the game is? I mean, great that maybe this game is.
The grandma was not scary. Like,
no. Have you ever played Granny? Like
Yes,
the
yes.
$2 game Granny? That was more terrifying than the grandma in this game. I'll say that much.
Like, she definitely was. The model was like big eyes, and she was just like, meh. But it was, I don't know, it was more comical than anything else. And
Yeah.
she was so shy that they just had her like keep peeking around the corner, but like not slow enough that it was like odd and disorienting. It was just like a kid
Weird.
going, "Hey, does your phone have any games?" And then she just like, disappears again.
Well, yeah, but that too, with the problem with everything being either desynced or just not timed correctly, because you'd have like the scary music and the character where you're like, "Ah!" And then grandma would slowly peek out from around the corner, and she'd go back, and then the character would just kind of be standing there.
Yeah.
Huh.
Now, can we talk about the worst, most egregious graphical issue in
this
the game?
This is my favorite thing that happened.
We were walking to the kitchen, right? So we're walking to the kitchen, like all of a sudden my character like stumbles and he's dragged by his foot, and then it cuts, and then he goes to the
you got drugged
kitchen.
Into the cutscene trigger is what happened.
Oh, that's what it is. So yeah, I got drugged into the cutscene trigger, and then all of a sudden I'm standing up, walking towards the fuse box.
Totally normal too, like not even phased whatsoever. That like, oh yeah, I was just 30 seconds ago on my back being dragged through this house. It's whatever.
Yeah, but there's a million things that happen like that, like the shotgun going off, and then him barely reacting to it.
Yeah, in the attic.
In the attic, it's just like not gonna be worried about the shotgun that just went off for no reason.
Well, that's the other thing too, is like in between every single event, like anytime something strange happened in the house. Yeah, anytime something strange happened in the house, or like the game told you to do something and then something strange happened, you'd be like, oh man, I gotta tell Martha about this. So you'd have to walk back upstairs to the computer and like read a text conversation for 5 minutes because they were just dumping
and he has
everything
to tell
right
her
out.
Yeah, the whole exposition of this game is between him and this character Martha, and you start on a computer and it's like text back and forth. Terrible already, because like I don't want to read all that. And then to make it even worse, it turns into phone conversations, which at first I was like, okay, fine, that's cool. But let's talk about when we get into the forest a bit, because that's where the phone conversations actually come in. So there's this point where
before that,
okay,
because we do have a little interstitial scene where we're in the car.
Oh yeah,
this is a chapter, by the way.
This is the entire chapter. We're driving through the car. They're just expositing back and forth to each other, and the game gives you the opportunity to choose how you're going to respond. And every time it does this, it cuts to like an undershot of the guy driving, and he's just like sitting there, just kind of like staring off into space. Doesn't matter what emotion he had beforehand.
No.
He just makes a neutral face, looking to see, like, waiting for you to choose an option. And there's no, like in The Walking Dead, where you get the choice timer, and if you don't choose something, you'll just either choose random or not say anything. I don't remember how that
And they
works.
also added the Inception blahs in between. Like the moment that they would give you the choice, they'd be like, blah. Big deal.
But the first time that happened, I thought something happened outside.
And then, so you'll pick. And the first time Chad did it, I had no idea what even happened because he picked. And then it cuts to like an establishing shot of the car driving, just like a transition. And then it goes back in the car, and he's all of a sudden, indignant about whatever Martha was talking about, because that's the option that Chad chose. I'm like, the flow of the conversation just breaks immediately.
Yeah, and these characters just met, and they're like talking as if they've known each other for years, which makes no sense. They're giving each other nicknames suddenly.
And we didn't even mention that it's his sister he was talking to on a dating site. Yeah. That's how this all goes down.
She knew?
She knew the whole time.
She knew.
Yeah, she knew. I don't understand this game.
Anyways, like he had
story's
some sort of weird amnesia adopted whatever nonsense, but she knew the whole time.
Yeah, she remembered and then decided to, for some reason, instead of just telling him all this stuff straight up, she waited for him for 2 years to move into this house. But she's been following him for 2 years. I don't know. I'm sure there's maybe a reason before that.
She's definitely the grandma. David's right.
Yeah, we suspect that she's really the bad guy.
I think that was Rick's idea.
Oh, it was
Rick. She was
You're
young
right.
grandma.
Never mind. Rick was right.
That's my guess.
Either way, it's terrible in some sense that the story kind of like drags on. But the biggest problem I had is we'll get into the combat in a second, but when we're walking down these quote unquote corridors, even though it's a forest that should be as, very easy to navigate through, you get stuck on every little thing. There could be a log that's on the ground that's like, maybe an inch thick. You're stuck on it and you have to go around it for some reason. But other logs on the ground, you can walk right over. Don't get that. There's rocks that you keep running into and it gets, I don't know, it's just all over the place with this one. So as far as getting stuck graphically sucks.
When you were running from the larger open area with the enemies, the camera does that wonderful thing, that beautiful thing that video game cameras do, where you'll get trapped up against the wall, but the camera's not allowed to pass through whatever you're stuck on. So it just gets shoved into your face, and you're like sticking there looking half transparent through your model. It's like, where the fuck am I?
Yeah. But David, do you have any thoughts on some tidbits that you want to share with the class?
I do not. I had a brief look through the store page, through the devs page. I guess one tidbit is this is their first game. This is the first project these guys have worked on.
Good game, guys.
Everything else that I just kind of could find about this game was just not worth talking about. There isn't anything interesting about the development of this game yet.
And now it's time for the meat and taters. We're going to dive into the analysis of this a little bit and kind of get into some open grievances. But quickly, I wanted to mention the combat in this game. It feels okay overall. The one thing I will say, and this will be part of my grievance, actually, I'm going to get right into it. The AI in this game are just beyond stupid. Like, there's two different enemy characters we ran into. One with this four-armed monster flaily thing, and then like these finger-faced dog things, right? Both of them would walk up to me and then literally turn the other way and jump opposite of me multiple times. So it's like they weren't even trying to attack me half the time. At first I thought it was like, maybe this is a tutorial thing and maybe that's why they're doing this. But no, it happened like way beyond that as well. And then they just decided I wasn't important anymore and just stand in a corner every once in a while and just like let me shoot them. That was kind of fun too, I guess. But the AI is just trash. That's my biggest grievance outside of the fact that you have no inventory at all. Like you literally just have weapon, ammo, and then if you need to heal, you have to find a healing station to heal. Like, you can't carry stuff on you. It was just, I don't know, just small things that just bug me about this game. Maybe that changes later, but we were an hour and a half in, and
that's a good time. That's a good chunk of time to give a game before you decide.
Yeah, an hour and a half would be a long time not to introduce being able to use items outside of, like physically using the box.
Yeah, I don't know. Tim, do you have another grievance you'd like to share? Because I'm sure there are many that we could go into.
I don't know if it's necessarily a grievance. It is a grievance. So this person clearly is a person who sat down and watched The Nun and thought that was like peak filmmaking, because this movie, or this game, is exactly like that movie. Every single thing is just exposition. They will literally describe to you what you're looking at right now on a phone call while you're standing there looking at it, and it drives me crazy. Like, I can't deal with that.
It wouldn't even show it. Like, remember when he said, "Oh, a gun"? It was on him before they showed the gun.
Yeah. She was messing around in the trunk. She was messing around in the trunk of the car, and it just cuts to his reaction. He goes, "A gun? Are you kidding?" And like this whole big long speech about like, what are you doing with that, this, that, and the other thing, and then it goes to her, and she's like, "Yeah, I got a gun."
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. Show, don't tell. It's a good motto. It really is. Just exposition's okay. It's not terrible, but you need to keep it in check.
Truly.
Ugh.
I think my biggest grievance with all of this would be much closer to. It was just 2 degrees off. Like, I think that's what bothered me the most, was that it was competent in the sense that it loaded, it ran. They obviously, it wasn't a broken game, right? Like, they tried to do something with it. But the character model for your player, his head just like always felt like it was at a weird angle,
his mouth always opened extra wide, it felt like.
Yeah, and like when you turned, it was like a really big wide, like in a circle type of thing. Like things like that just make it feel so, I don't even want to say amateur, because it's obviously not an amateur looking game, but it didn't have the elbow grease or the polish to really make it feel like, oh yeah, this is clicking. Like it just took everything out of it. And even like the little thing of, this is supposed to be, I wouldn't call it an action. It's not an action game.
Yeah.
But even
they're calling it an action horror, but I don't even see that.
But even in that, having it to where it's an entire animation to walk down the stairs that you can't stop, like, so it's just going, and you're like, okay, I'll go back up in a second. Like that instantly makes me be like, oh, honey, no, like, what are you doing?
And it's such a long animation. It was literally like at least 10 seconds to go up the stairs, and another 10 seconds to go down the stairs if you miss something.
That one too, the animation lock with the stairs is bad. Arguably worse is the hit reaction, I guess, when you get attacked by an enemy, because it's not. God. They don't do that thing where, like, you get injured, but you can still move out of the way. You're just not allowed to perform another action like a lot of these games will do. It's literally like you're locked in place. You can no longer move. He's got to do the, oh God, I got smacked in the face or whatever. And like while the enemies are still coming up towards you.
Well, can you even talk about how awful the freaking, like, the actual attack animation is to begin with? It basically doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
They do like, I want to call it a swipe, but they essentially just turn their torso at you, and like that's it.
Yeah, I think a very egregious thing that you're talking about when you're getting attacked. The only time I got attacked and got hit was when I was on the phone. And again, all this exposition, right? For some reason, they're letting me walk through, and they think it's really cool that, like, oh, you can walk around while you're getting all this exposition on the phone about, like, what's happening in the story and the lore, blah, 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 blah. Okay, fine, whatever. I don't mind that when it's in the background. But you literally can't do anything else. You can't heal. You can't reload. You can't bring out your gun. You can walk through enemies, but at some point, they start beating you up, and then as she's talking to you on the phone, you're stunned and like you can't walk for a second. It's bad. She is
literally jabbering away the entire time while you're like, oh shit, oh damn it. She's like, you're like, hey, can you get off the phone? This hurts so much, please.
And my last grievance, and I'll give it off to you guys again. There was a random like indicator, but it was in the middle of the woods, and I couldn't figure out how to get there. It was like it just kept saying E, and the only time the E comes up is like if you're next to something, right? And I was pressing E, and I was like, maybe it's like one of those E to use. Just do it. Nothing. It was in the distance, and I kept walking further and further away from it. No idea what that was supposed to be about. It's not a pip. Nothing.
It was
idea.
Probably a technical glitch. I really think it was.
It had to, man.
Probably.
I guess the real big question here is, were the creators of this game going for schlock? Like,
yes.
From the hour and a half that we played, this is like taking a lot of trying to read intention, which if we had maybe played through the entire thing, our opinions would change. But from the slice that we were given, did we think it was supposed to be bad on purpose, or was it just a misfire in horror?
I really feel like at the beginning, like in the house, it felt like it was supposed to just be like straight up B horror. Like, no one can mistime jump scares that badly, right? I feel like it was done on purpose. And then when you get to the part where you're like in just the exposition forest, as we'll call it right now, it kind of fell apart. And I feel like they were trying to be serious now, like just because of how bad that section is. Like, there was nothing about that came off as, like, B-schlock or anything like that. It was just exposition and nothing else.
I was going to say, it wasn't even exposition half the time. Sometimes you'd just be walking down these empty, I'm going to call it hallways, because that's essentially what it was in the woods. Just nothing. But for some reason, there's ammo boxes every 5 feet that I don't need. It's like they just were just putting stuff there. I don't think it's necessarily schlock. I think this was just baby's first game. They've got Unreal Engine 5. Is that the newest one, David? And they were like, oh, let's just throw something together, try some cool stuff out, get some Resident Evil 4 feelings out there, and then sell it for $25. That's what I really feel like it is. But all right, let's move on to the final say to figure out if we're going to continue Stray Souls. I feel like this is going to be a fairly quick one. I don't know. This might be unanimous, but we'll see. But since I played the game, I will be going last. But we'll start with Tim because he's usually the outlier in all these games. Will you continue?
So I'm going to just start this off by saying I was thoroughly entertained during the house section because as a person who really, really, really enjoys just B movies in general, like House Shark's amazing. I don't care what anyone says. It's a great movie. Go look it up. It's phenomenal. It's on Tubi. It's free. I really like these just low budget, terrible movies. They kind of veer off into comedy territory at a certain point. And I feel like that's what they were trying to do with the opening section. And I was thoroughly entertained. And then we got to the car ride and I kind of started to go, ooh. Maybe that was not what they were going for here. I'm just picking it up because of how bad it was. And then we got to the forest and it all kind of clicked that I think they just made a bad game. I think they just made a bad game. And it kind of lost all of its charm in the forest for me. It really did because there just wasn't enough going on. And like even the conversations didn't really have any comedy to them anymore. No. And like it was just all falling apart. And like I want to believe that there's something else beyond the forest that's going to pull me back into the game, but I refuse to do that to myself. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't want to be too harsh because like that opening segment, if that was just the game and it was just us in that house with all the, the wacky jump scares and stuff, I would have probably enjoyed it, not going to lie. But like the forest killed it for me. There's got to be more than that. Like, you need to fix that section. I'm sorry.
It was
that's going to just, it has to be a no for me because I cannot get through the forest section. I would be bored out of my mind.
Is this like your third no?
I think this is 4. I think this is 4.
Wow.
Like, I really wanted this to be a yes. I did because that opening section had me, but it lost me.
All right. David, would you continue?
I would not continue this game. At one point while we were playing, we were still in the house. We hadn't made it to the forest yet. At one point while we were still in the house, I think I compared this to The Room. Yeah. Or one of those Neil Breen movies.
Oh, yeah,
and it's not...
What's the guy's name in that movie?
Oh, Tommy Wiseau.
Tommy Wiseau, thank you.
It's not as hilariously incompetent as those. Those are just like next level oddball nonsense. But this feels like a proof of concept that they probably, were able to fund. Someone in the comments said that they had a Kickstarter.
Yeah, it was a Kickstarter.
I think they were working on this game, fleshed out what they wanted to do with the house, got to the forest, and ran out of money. I think they dumped this out onto the store. They lost their funding, ran through it, couldn't find another producer. No one wanted to pick it up, something. And they just dumped it out to recoup what they could, which I think would explain why it's so cheap. I think there's a launch sale right now, but it's usually only like $25.
Yeah.
I think it's $30. $29.99 is the full price. I think right now it's $23. Yeah.
That is starting to get up there a little bit. I was gonna say if it was like $25, that's like, the Walmart bargain bin of games. Yeah. But yeah, no, this is not, unless they come out and say, hey, we're switching to early access. We're going to update the game. They pull a No Man's Sky, and really sit down, work it out. Who knows? But yeah, right now, this ain't it. I'm not going to continue this game.
This ain't it. All right. That's 2. Will not continues. Rick, will you continue?
Do you want to know that I'm about to really probably surprise you with my answer here? I would never continue playing this game. What a waste of my life. I think that, And again, all criticism is not directed towards the people who made the game as human beings, but just like, I don't know, start a band, because this was not this was not the move. I think the grandma character completely ruined it for me, to where it was just like, yeah, I don't want to be here right now. I think that this was a title that for sure you play and you tell your friends about, and you go, oh my God, did you guys play this game? And they go, yeah, we played this too. And you go, how terrible was that game? I would not, I could be doing anything else in my life, including deleting old games out of my Steam library, and it would still be more productive and more fulfilling than playing this game anymore.
All right. Well, that is 3 will not continues. I'm the final one. Will I be the only one to continue this game? And I'm here to tell you that I'm not going to continue this game. There's so much about this game that is just unfortunate. I think
a valiant attempt. It's a good attempt.
It is.
They had me at the beginning, like Tim said, I thought we were playing the B movie side. Like, I thought, like, you know what? I like the campiness. I like the goofiness of it. I was like, okay. But then I realized I don't think they're doing this on purpose. I don't think that this was meant to be campy. I think that this is just trash. And slowly but surely, it was more and more trash. I think it's kind of funny, because I think we have a group chat, and we were talking about potentially doing the new King Kong game, right? And I feel like this is much worse than even that game is, because Tim's giving me that weird face.
I don't know about that.
But if what's the name of the new King Kong game? For those who don't know, like, there's a new King Kong game, Skull Island or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, Rise of Kong.
Rise of Kong just came out, and apparently just trash, like just goofy stuff on that one. But I feel like this is taking the cake for just like, what is going on? At least in that game, it seems like the game runs, the storyline makes sense, whatever. I mean, if it does, I don't know. But this game, everything's off. Everything's off. And to make the matters worse, like, the voice acting's fine, whatever, but like, I don't think the 2 voice actors were in the same room together ever, or heard each other's lines, because they just make no sense out of nowhere, where they're just like suddenly screaming for some reason, and then next time they're not screaming, and it's just really off-putting. So there's just a lot going on in this game, and I cannot suggest anyone playing this game or spending any money on this.
What is it called when, like, you see something that looks close to a human but it's not, and it just messes with your brain?
Uncanny Valley?
Yeah, like
Pareidolia.
This is literally,
Or no. Sorry, I thought you were talking about seeing faces and things.
No.
Oh.
This is the uncanny valley of video games, in that it doesn't commit hard enough to being serious, or commit hard enough to being a B movie. It falls right in that middle, and that's like the death valley for any title that's going to be there.
Yeah, it really is. I'd probably be more forgiving if it didn't have a $30 price tag, but I don't think I would continue it either way. Like, maybe a $10 price tag, but like, I don't see this being a $30
Even
game.
still, $10. I don't even know if I could pay that much. This will be one of the few times where I tell you the price and go, don't save your money. But it is available on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series XS, Steam, and here's one that makes a lot of sense for me. Android. It's available on. It's probably why it's so trash.
Available on mobile?
Supposedly, it just said Android,
Wow.
so I was like, okay. So yeah, there's several ways that you shouldn't play this game out there. But thank you all for listening to First 30. And if you want to see our beautiful faces, if you want to support us, you can go to our YouTube channel. That is youtube.com/@First30Podcast.